Good morning, everyone. So, a couple of things have been brought to my attention since uploading some of the videos since getting home. A lot of people seem to think that I'm talking about things that I have no prior knowledge, no lived experience, and contradicting what I'm saying by speaking on things, trying to give opinions and advice and alternatives when I never chose those alternatives or things myself when I was living that life. Now, for me, although I acknowledge sometimes I may say things that overlap and potentially contradict, I am doing my best to make sure I stay honest, accountable, and especially when I'm talking about real things that have happened in my life, I try to be as verbatim as possible. Verbatim meaning accurate, trying to be word for word on things that have happened, how they've happened, in order to educate anyone that's watching it so that they can sort of analyse what I'm saying, go over it and try and apply it to things that have happened in their life, happening in their lives, or could happen in their life. Now, one thing that's been brought to my attention quite a lot since yesterday is something that I'm going to touch on right now, and I won't lie, it makes me feel sick just knowing I'm going to talk about it, because I can't take these things back. I can't, and nothing I say will remove the pain, hurt and suffering and psychological effects that my actions have had on other people. So I need to be crystal clear about that. Like, I am sorry for everything that I've ever put anyone else through. I know I've said that a bit in the last couple of videos, but I mean it. Like, because I can't change what I've done. I can't change how my actions have affected other people. Like, my actions still affect me psychologically, me. So I can only imagine how it's affected other people. What I'm about to talk about, it's going to upset a lot of people, probably more than the last videos. Actually, I know it will. And for me, again, I don't care. I really don't. Because what I'm saying, I truly believe is the right thing to do now. Now. I never used to, as I'll explain. Right. Over the course of my life, when I was engaging in criminal activities, being a crazy drug addict, being unreasonable, not having the ability to put other people's feelings, futures or lives first, always putting myself first. I, through my own actions and decisions, have impacted other people's lives in such a way that, as I just said, I can't change it now, and that's the hardest thing for me to accept. Taking self-accountability for things that it's hard to be accountable for something that you can't change. Do you understand? Like, because for me, people's lives who I've affected are going to watch these videos and be like, this man ruined my life. This man put me through some of the most traumatic, life-changing things that I've ever been through. And I'm acknowledging that. And I'm sorry for that. I really am. So yeah, this video had to come next. I've got... there's videos backed up by the day, trust me. It's just, as people are messaging me, coming to me for advice, asking me for alternatives to situations that they now find themselves in, it's made me realise something, is that my memory is not the best when it comes to traumatic stuff that happened just like that. When I say happened just like that, it's, as I referred to in previous videos, when you go from living normal life, having a party, driving down the road, walking down the street, to your life flashing before your eyes, things happening, like whether it's car accidents, seeing people get hit by cars, serious violence in the blink of an eye over petty underlying shit that shouldn't have caused such serious violence. It's, for me, when it, like, some people only experience these things once, maybe twice in their life. For me, my life is backed up by it again and again and again and again. So, like, you know, I hold no animosity towards anyone that wants to reach out to me and say, hey, dickhead, are you forgetting this? Because I'll be honest, And I'm sorry, yes, I may have forgotten a lot of things, because when you've just repeatedly gone through that kind of life again and again and again, it gets to the point where, and especially for my personal experience, as I got older and kept doing the same things, my experiences got more severe, more scary, more traumatizing, and unfortunately I wasn't able to bring myself to nip that in the butt and be like, this is crazy, like, you know, I'm going to die, someone's going to die, I'll end up hurting someone or taking someone's life without wanting to, just because of the life I live and the situations I kept choosing to put myself in. So, right, this will be hard. It's not hard though, because it's the right thing to do. And I don't care what you think, because this is the truth. This is my opinion, but it's also the truth. I truly believe that. So, I'm not going to name names, because I know these women wouldn't want me to say their names in these videos, so I'm not. But it's not going to be hard to work out who I'm talking about. I haven't had that many serious relationships. Over the course of my life, because of my core belief system, because of the things that I enforced and lived by through serious demonstration, violence, unpredictability, carrying weapons, having other people assaulted or hurt or threatened or forced into doing things that I didn't want them to do, or things that they could go on to do that would affect me or my closest friends when it come to the police or the court system or going to prison. I've had some really hard examples given to me in the last couple of days by women who have found themselves in positions that they did not ask to be put in. Let me make that clear. They are not criminals. They do not engage in serious criminality. They are mothers. They are daughters. They are like sisters. They are young women. No, it doesn't matter how old you are either. Let me make that clear. I've got to stop saying young, because for me, all this stuff doesn't matter. It makes it worse the younger someone is when you start doing things that negatively impact their life, because that means, in my eyes, you're taking advantage of this person. They're too young to understand if they're being led astray or forced down a lifestyle or a life path that they are not choosing consciously. They don't understand the severity of it. They don't understand that once you make that one decision, you're trapped by it. I'll explain. The examples I've been given in the last couple of days have made me really self-reflect again, like, I feel sick. I need a drink. And it made me realise, like, I've got these women asking me for advice on situations that I have put my own partners in, and yet they had no one to turn to for advice. They had no one they could go to and say, Kane, because no one would come to me and say, oh, you can't do that, you can't do this, how dare you do that? I wasn't that person. I wasn't someone that you could come to and say, hey, you scum, you piece of shit, you can't do that, you're a dog, that's a maggot act. Like, I wasn't that person, unfortunately. And the examples I've been given have made me feel terrible, because it's made me really reflect on the things that I've done to people, and especially my ex-partners, because, as I said, these women don't choose that lifestyle that us men choose. And when you find yourself threatening women, threatening mothers, putting them in compromising positions where their freedom is on the line, they could go to jail because you're forcing them to keep their mouth shut, because you do something that undermines their lifestyle and has them put in a position where they either cooperate with the police or they're getting pressured and, if not charged, sometimes imprisoned because of you, because of me. That's not right. That is so far from right that I promise you, my opinion is this: if you put a young mother, a young woman, and especially a young person in a position where you've done something criminal, in their presence, in their line of sight, if you compromise their integrity as a law-abiding citizen by committing criminal conduct in their presence where they have to witness it and then go on to live with it, if you think that it's not right for them to then tell the police what happened when the police come, I hate to break it to you, but we're the scum. If you choose to do that, if you choose to conduct yourself in that way, guess what? Anyone that sits around you and says, oh, F that girl, F that mole, F, anything like that, if you start threatening, harassing, attacking, physically assaulting, anything like that, you're scum. You get me? I'm scum. Don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here saying I've physically attacked women, because I haven't. Not in the way that you could imagine anyway. Emotional control, psychological abuse, yeah. But this is the thing. I put 3 of my ex-partners in positions where they could have lost their freedom. One of them did, because of my actions. Now, that, no matter how I feel towards these women now, that's wrong. That's scum. Like, that is so wrong on so many levels that, for me, as I said, until I got drug-free, I couldn't see all this stuff. I really couldn't, because my belief systems were so deeply embedded in me that my feelings and my thoughts, they couldn't override it. I couldn't see past my own bullshit. Here's the thing. The fact that we have women and children in our state that literally, because they made maybe a poor decision or not, whether they had any control or influence over the situation they've found themselves in, if you continue to place them under pressure, stress, and threats of violence because you've been charged with something because of something they've written to the police in a statement or said to police on the side of the road that they've seen, at the end of the day, you're the dumbass that put them in that position. Like, it'd be like someone walking into my local IGA and holding it up without a mask on, and then when the staff write a statement identifying that person, you start sending people back there to threaten them, to try and intimidate them into retracting the statement. You're the one that walked in there without a mask on. I'm not saying, I know that's a bad analogy, but it's just to make it clear for you how brain dead it is to place people in a position where they are only doing what they've been taught, which is the right thing, to abide by the law, to cooperate with the police, to do all the things that 99% of people in our country are obliged and rightfully should do. It blows my mind. It really does that I live that life. Because when I sit here now, it makes me feel sick that I done that I live like that. And, I thank the young women that have come forward and give me these real-time, real-world examples that they're experiencing as I sit here doing this fucking video. That, again, that strikes at my heart, knowing that there's men out here in the community, in our prison system, and because of their actions, they somehow find it justifiable to threaten these women, to intimidate them, to have their cars burnt out, to do things to them that will change their lives forever. All the while, the men that are doing it, they don't give a fuck. And I know this because I was that person. Again, I'm not speaking on things that I have no experience in. When you live that life, you believe that anyone that goes against you or what you believe, they're the scum, they're the dog, they're no good, they deserve to be smashed, they deserve to live in fear. I really struggle to see how I lived and talked and enforced that lifestyle for so long. And that's why there is nothing, not one of you will say to me, online, through your anonymous messages, in the street, there's nothing you'll say to me that will take this feeling away, because this is me now, So get used to it. And unfortunately, as an individual, there's not a great deal I can do to help these women in their individual situations. But here's the thing. These videos aren't for one person. They're for all of you. Because, as I just said, you can't, there's nothing I can do outright without making poor decisions myself to help these people. This is more about educating everyone that anyone that conducts themselves in that way, you're scum. It's that fucking simple. You are scum. If you put someone else, I don't care if it's your best mate. I'll give another example on a different level, right? It doesn't have to be a woman or a child or a mother or a sister. It can be a brother, a son, your best mate, your 39-year-old, 24-year-old best mate that you've grown up with since childhood. This is a real-world example. I've got friends, and again, I want to make this clear. The example that I can give on one of the ex-partner of mine that through my actions, she ended up in prison charged with crimes. Yeah, they weren't my crimes, but that's not the point. She wouldn't have been charged with them if I hadn't have been on the run, hiding at her house, all these sorts of things. When you're a criminal and you do certain things without thought, without feeling, without consideration of others, this is an example. A couple of my friends had known each other a long time. They were best mates. They could just rock up to each other's houses willy-nilly, knock on the door, walk in, don't need to wait for it to be up, whatever, they were best mates. On this one occasion, one of them decided that they would drive a car with stolen number plates to our friend's house, leave a gun on the hand seat, leave a handgun on the passenger seat, don't lock the car, park it in their driveway, go inside. Took a mother load of drugs inside while they were with them to try and sell to our mate. Now, he wasn't inside 10 minutes and they look on the camera and bang, there's cops surrounding the car that's got a fucking handgun on the seat in the driveway. What does the person do that pulled up in the driveway in that car and bring years worth of jail time worth of drugs into that house? They drop the drugs and run, mate. That's what they do. And guess what happened? The person who owned the house, who didn't call them, text them, ask them to come there and bring stolen cars and guns and drugs onto their property, they were the one that was arrested that night because old mate decided he was hopping fences, mate. He going through the paddocks. He ain't sticking around to do the 5 years that our mate done for him. So yeah, he literally, as soon as they seen the cops, he just fucking bang, down the stairs, out the back door and over the fence, gone. They literally didn't even see him. So when they pull up into the house and arrest me mate for the gun and the stolen car or car with stolen plates in the driveway, he's under arrest, of course. And now that they've found a firearm and a stolen vehicle or a car with stolen plates on it on his property, they're going to search the rest of the house, aren't they, in case there's some more evidence or criminal activity taking place on the property. They found enough drugs to sentence him to nearly 5 years, or I think it was 6 years, and he done 3 years, 8 months. Now, if he'd have said to the person that put him in that position, without him asking to, yes, he dealt drugs, but no, the drugs and the gun and the car that were there were not his. And the drugs that they did find on the property, based off of that search, 99% of it in terms of volume, so the 16 ounces or the 9 ounces, whatever it was, that they found, he didn't bring into his own house. The other drugs they found on the property, 3 grams, that was his. He would have got bail that night without the car, the handgun, and the fucking 10 ounces, 9 ounces, whatever it was. But instead, he spent the next near 3 years in jail from that night, from one decision, from one of his friends. So that's just that's one example, okay? Now, this is the point I want to make. Who's the scum here? If my mate that went to jail for someone else's actions says to the person that put him in there, you need to put your hand up. By putting your hand up in criminal terms, it means taking responsibility and owning up to something that you've done that someone else is going to end up taking the blame for, or the conviction and jail sentence for, because of your actions. If he asked that person to put his hand up so that he doesn't get 5 or 6 years for something he didn't do, and that person says, no, I'm not doing that, like, no way, that's a sentence, I'm going to get a big sentence for that, I can't do that, they got no way of proving it's me. Who's the scum if that person says, you either put your fucking hand up, cunt, or I'll tell them it was yours? Who's the scum? The person that's going to let their best mate do fucking 6 years or get a 6-year sentence because they just don't want to deal with their own consequences of their own actions? Or the son, the brother, and the bloke who was just sitting at home minding his business that's about to lose 3.5 years of his life? I'll tell you, the scum that bought it there. You're the scum. The person that puts anyone, and I'll be clear, I'm not calling this person a scum because I've changed, but anyone that puts anyone else in that position by their actions, if you don't have the backbone or the accountability to not let someone else take the rap for your crimes, you're the scum, mate. Like, that's the fact of the matter. And as I said, I have had my own partners sent to jail and got laggins. They've done time, not for things I've done, but because my actions led police to their house, and they found things there that the girl had at her house that I didn't know about. So, but that makes me the scum, because they never would have come there if it wasn't for me. Just like they never would have sent my mate to jail for 3 years, 8 months, if our other mate hadn't have gone there with the car, the gun, and the drugs, and ran, and then let him take the rap for it. So, yeah, I can sit here and give you real world life experiences again and again, but I don't think I need to make it any clearer. Like, if you do something, I'll say it like this: if you do something in the presence of someone else, or in someone else's car, house, or property, and for whatever reason the police become involved, and your responsibility and culpability in that crime, culpability meaning what you've done, how much of it is your fault, is not immediately outlined and someone else could take the rap for you, or you think that somehow by threatening, disowning, not having anything to do with that person from here on in to try and avoid having to have that hard conversation about who should really be doing the lagging, who should really be taking the charges, the fact that you should walk into the cop shop yourself and take responsibility and own up for what's happened. I hate to break it to you, but you're the scum. You're the one that should be getting threatened. You're the one that should be under all this pressure. You're the one that should be living in fear every day of the repercussions of someone that did nothing wrong. Why is it the people that do nothing wrong are the ones living in fear, having their house and homes and families and children and themselves threatened because of something you fucking done? Do you know how retarded that sounds to a normal person? I'm not saying I'm normal, but I'm getting there. Even to me, someone who bled that life, like, that is fucking retarded. Sorry for all the swearing, but like, it is retarded that people live their life thinking that's okay. And here's the funny thing. It's not funny. Here's the saddest thing, is that in that life, because not being a dog, not being a narc, not writing statements, here's the funny thing, not making people take accountability for their own actions is a way of life in that life. These people will get 6-year laggins, 3-year laggins. It doesn't matter if it's a fucking 2-hour laggin, mate. If someone's locked you in a concrete dog kennel for just 2 hours for something that you haven't done, trust me, unless you're a drug addict, and I said this in the last couple of videos, unless you're a bad drug addict that uses hard drugs, you won't accept that. You won't sit in a cell for someone else and sit there going, no, it's okay. He'll be right. I'll buy him a beer when I get out of here. It don't work like that, I promise you. Because even as a drug addict, when you're in there feeling like that, you're raging. You can throttle that person. But here's the key. Once you get out and a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months go by and your drug addiction and your drug use has gone back up, it numbs you. It numbs your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions, and you don't care anymore. The people that live that life, they actually believe that what's going on is just a part of the criminal life. Makes me sick. Here's the point. Any one of you, I don't care who you are, thinking that it's okay, acting in a way that is undermining someone else's life, safety, and the decisions they've made in their life, if they're not a criminal, if they haven't lived their life doing the wrong thing, being a scum, not cooperating with police, misleading and misinforming police, if they're not like you, don't force your way of life onto them. Don't commit a crime that puts them in a position where they have to write a statement or talk to the police or be taken to court because the police are forcing them to, because they know that they have evidence or information that could lead to your conviction because of your actions, and then start threatening to kill, burn, torture, and just ruin that person's life because you were stupid enough to do a fucking crime that dragged them into it. Do you understand? It's like this. It's like me and you walking down the road and I decide to try and run across the road and beat a couple of cars, but I get hit by a car, break my legs, whatever, and then I turn around and look at you and blame you. And then expect you to take accountability for me running in front of a fucking car and getting hit by it. That's how backwards it is. That lifestyle, that way of life and that way of thinking and conducting yourself in such a way that you are affecting other people's lives for something they had no say in. They didn't make you do it. They didn't ask you to do it. They didn't call you there. They didn't put you in a position to commit that crime. You chose to do it. So don't then go and threaten women and children and young people and elders. Don't threaten anyone for something that you've done. That's the gist of it. Ultimately, if you want to live that life, you have to suffer the consequences. That's the point I'm making here. Self-accountability is the hardest thing to do when you're a criminal and a drug addict, I promise you, because you're already living in such a way that you believe you're entitled. You believe you're allowed to do all these things because of the pain and suffering that you feel, or the anger that you feel, or the things that you don't have that you want. You think you can just go and take them off everyone else and ruin other people's lives to try and make yourself feel better. Oh, Jesus, I'm getting angry because this stuff... I really hope that I've made that crystal clear. That's my take on it. So you don't have to ask me from here on in what my view is when it comes to people pressuring other people not to go to court, not to write statements, not to do this, not to do that. At the end of the day, if you put them in that position, take accountability, be a fucking man, be a woman, and own up to your own shit. Don't drag people through the police stations and the whole process. Because here's the thing, I'm not being negative towards the police here because it's their job. It is the prosecution's job to protect our community, to protect our vulnerable, to protect us all. When people find themselves having to write statements, being required to attend court and all these kinds of things, the police are not there as some caregiver trying to alleviate the stress of the people that you've made witnesses, the people that you've made have to give up time from work and all these kinds of things to go to the police stations and go to the courthouses and come and give evidence. And all. The police are not caregivers. They're not saying to these people who you're now threatening to retract the statement, change the statement, forget what you wrote in the statement, forget what you've seen on the day. The police aren't sitting there rubbing them on the back, driving them home, sitting out the front, making sure they're safe. It don't work like that. Like, unless it's something serious, like something really serious where they cannot afford for the witness to retract their statement, the police pretty much are just there to guide you, properly inform you and assist you on your rights and what's required of you. They're actually not there to protect you, and like, yes they are, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to being a witness and being involved in criminal activities that other people have done and they need your information to convict them, their job is not to just mollycoddle you the whole way through it. So what I'm saying is, why would you put someone through something like that when you know the truth, when you know what you've done, and when you know they had no say in what happened and they didn't ask for it? It's not their fault. I'll tell you why. Because you're selfish, you're scared of doing jail, and you don't want the truth to come out because of your actions. That's the bottom line. Like, and it's, for me, it's just like, I can't believe I've done this shit. That's what I keep coming back to, like, and that's why I have to talk on it, because I was one of the worst. So I'm not sitting here talking shit. I'm not sitting here talking about something I have no experience in, trust me. And that fucking kills me, because when I have mothers reaching out to young women, young mums reaching out to me saying they're terrified of the situation they've found themselves in because of other people, criminals, men, that they have no actual relationship with, no friendship with, and have never really had anything to do with these people. It's just like, I don't know, like, I do know, like, it makes me sad, it makes me sick. The thought of me walking out of my house now and negatively impacting someone else's life in any way, shape or form, whether it's staring at them like this when they're trying to walk down the street, whether it's getting angry in traffic, whether it's getting impatient waiting for an elevator because it fills up and you have to wait one lift and you decide to push your way in there and make yourself a prick. It doesn't matter. I can't see myself doing things like this anymore. I just can't, because you don't understand. Like, people don't just share how they're feeling or what they live with day to day. So take this into account next time you decide to mistreat anyone, to misspeak to anyone. You don't know what they've been through in life. You don't know what it takes for them to get out of bed every day just to put on their face and go about their day, work their jobs, live their lives, provide for their families, and just want to be here as humans, just want to live life and wake up, live, breathe, laugh, and love. You don't know. So putting any sort of negative energy into that person's life could be the boiling point for them to, I don't want to say it. You can't go around ruining other people's lives in any way, shape or form. Some people have enough going on. Some people struggle day to day in their own lives with their own issues, their own emotions. They don't need you to project yours onto them just because you're scum. That's the bottom line. Have a great day, everyone.